What up, world? It's your partner, Art Powell. I hope everybody's doing well today. It's an awesome day. And that you're going to do the best to make it productive and be as productive as possible. So, the reason for this video, and it's going to be a series of videos, is because this morning when I woke up, man, my heart was hardened, man, as I just look at how violent the world is today. Just looking at things as far as the gun violence, man, whether it's young or old, older people, man, it's just ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous how think it's okay to hurt each other. Like that's the norm. We've got so desensitized to picking up a gun and shooting somebody and not thinking about the consequences of what that happens. And like I mentioned in my video earlier this morning on social media, I was just talking about, man, how it's how people just think it's okay and it's normal to commit acts of violence, right? But then we got to go back to the root. The root of the problem is we see something because sight is the most important sense we have, and we think that it's okay to do it because a lot of times we're not told, hey, if you do this, this is going to be the outcome of that. And I think that's really the problem that we face today in our society, not just with our young people, but just even adults. Because adults, some of these adults out here are worse than our young people. And they've grown accustomed to this, to being violent over a lifetime. And so I'm going to self identify saying, I'm going to use myself as an example. As a young man joining the gang at the age of 15, I thought it was normal because that's what I seen. That's what I seen in my environment, every gang members and pimps. And so me seeing these things, I picked up those habits thinking that it's okay. Um, Even going through juvenile, going to the county jail numerous times, and eventually going to prison to serving 11 and a half years, it took me a long time to get it. I didn't know that I was being branded or 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 created to be a habitual offender or to be what they call a career criminal on paper. Um, and so I didn't have any fear of using weapons to harm people. And so when I think back and I go back to the root of the problem, I remember when I first started seeing acts of violence was being a child, watching cartoons. I'm gonna use Roadrunner for example. Um, you seen acts of violence. Even Tom and Jerry with the mouse and the cat fighting, they're hurting each other, right? And as a child, we unconsciously pick up those habits thinking it's okay. And guess what? If you sit two children in front of the cartoon and they're watching these acts of violence, guess what they're going to do? They're going to copy and mimic what they see. They're going to do commit those, hurt each other, or try to copy what they just seen on the cartoon. And just think about over a lifetime, as you grow from a child to adulthood, as you repeatedly see acts of violence, you know, um, and the media plays a role in that. We don't want to keep it 100 and say they do, but they do. We don't want to say they do, but it does. When you think about watching movies that show violence, when you watch reality shows that show violence, when you watch music videos that show violence, when you see video games that show violence, when you see um, social media pushing violence, guess what? People think it's okay to do it. I remember watching the Jerry Springer show, and man, you see them people they get on those shows, they get into it. Guess what? Somebody slaps somebody, and there's no consequence. They just break the fight up. So think about it. Think about all the young people, men and women, that have watched shows like that or any movie or anything that shows violence, and they never really seen consequences. So they're going to think it's okay to go do that. The only thing they're going to do is break the fight up. They're not thinking that it's going to be criminal charges pressed against them, right? And that's the reality behind it. So I just feel we as adults, we need to do a better job of communicating with young people, and even those people who we consider friends or family members. At some point in time, we got to step in and say, hey, you know, I can't support that and advocate that behavior. You don't need to do that because guess what? If you do this act and you get locked up, I gotta bail you out of jail. I gotta try to help you with your situation and things like that. So we definitely gotta look at how we're gonna, as a community, how we're gonna do things better to make sure that the people around us aren't acting out and committing these acts of violence and just doing violent things, and then at the same time we have to suffer behind that because we're attached to those people, we can love those people, we care for those people, so we become just as involved or impacted by them by their situations that like they do themselves. So I just wanted to start doing this little series to kind of have real conversation with people, just throw some things out there for people to think about and consider as as we start this journey of reclaiming our communities and doing a better job of stopping the gun violence, man. Working from our children to our teens to our young adults and even the adults and ourselves. Because some of us have attitude problems, some of us have problems with our uh, with fighting and getting angry and not thinking about how we're gonna resolve this situation without actually harming another individual or that individual harming us because we just acted on our feelings and our emotions. So what I want to do is kind of share some slides with y'all of what I be doing with my curriculum. I have two curriculums. One is called Project Egress, which is for youth and young adults, and then I have a reentry curriculum called Project Roots, which is for guys, men and women that are getting reacclimated or coming home. But the thing about it is, even with the subjects that I talk about in Project Egress, it can be applied by adults as well. And so today we're going to talk about the consequences of criminal activity because a lot of people don't understand what comes with it. A lot of people don't know um, what's the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony if you get incarcerated, getting locked up for a crime you committed. A lot of people don't think about who's impacted by them getting locked up. A lot of people don't think about, okay, if you get locked up and you catch a felony, what can possibly happen to that? So today, what I'm gonna do is kind of go through a couple of slides and talk about some things to kind of spark your consciousness, and not just for yourself, but also for the people around you. So you can get them to think about, hey man, if you do this, this gonna happen to you, and I don't want to see that happen to you. I want to be your support system and stop you from making a mistake that can possibly change your life, like it did mine. Even though I've been home for 20 years, I still have complications and issues because I have a convicted felon on my record, you know? So I just wanted to say that. So I'm gonna share my screen with y'all. And so the first question is, what is criminal activity? A lot of people do things they don't think it's a crime, right? So we're gonna talk about that. Criminal activity is a act harmful not only to some individual or individuals, but also to the community, society, or the state. A public wrong. Such acts are forbidden and punishable by city, county, state, and federal law. You get that? They're saying if you commit acts of criminal activity, right? It's forbidden by law and it's punishable. You can be punished for your crimes, right? So I mean, let's be real about that. So let's talk about what's the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony? A lot of people don't know. We got people out here committing crime and doing things, and they don't understand that there are laws, or they don't understand the penalties behind those acts they commit, right? So a misdemeanor is a criminal offense that is less serious than a felony and generally punishable by a fine, a jail term of up to 12 months or less, or both, depending on the crime. A felony A felony is a criminal offense of serious magnitude for which a sentence to a term of imprisonment for more than a year is authorized. I also did mention that there could be fines as well. If you destroy property, you're going to have to pay for that once you're released. And so those are things we need to think about and consider too when you start looking at, if somebody could say, hey man, let's go over here. I want to grab this car. If you're there with them, you just got uh a charge too, being guilty by association. By you supporting the act and being in the presence of the individual that committed the act. So that's just something to think about, right? So let's talk about who's affected by your actions. For young people, I mean, for anyone, your parents, um, your family members, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your children, your friends, and you. A lot of times when we commit crimes and we have to stay locked up in the county jail or in juvenile or even go to prison, we don't understand that our families are doing time with us. And we don't understand, just like we're being uh, affected by the trauma of being incarcerated, our families being impacted by the trauma of worrying about if something going to happen to us, and they're stressed about trying to put money on your books, trying to sit down and write you a letter. And if you're in prison in another city that could be 2 or 3 hours away from where you stay, guess what? That takes a toll on them having to drive to where you are and visit you, deal with the pain of having to leave you in your situation. So we got to think about things like that too. And I promise I ain't gonna take up too much more time. I just wanted to kind of throw some things out there for us to be mindful of when we're talking with our children, with their friends, with our family members, with our friends, when they're angry and they're thinking about committing a crime. We have to step in and say, no, you can't do that. I don't support that. And these are the consequences that come with that. So what comes with incarceration? You can go to jail. And if you go to jail, guess what? Somebody got to post your bond, which is normally 12%. I mean, you got to post your bail of your bond, which is normally 12% of whatever your bond is. So if you got a bond of $12,000, right? Uh, somebody's looking to spend anywhere from $1,400 to $1,500 to get you out. Come on, man. And if you got a higher bond, if your bond's $100,000 or $200,000, that means basically somebody gonna have to put their house up. They might have to even put their house up to bail you out. So we got to think about things like that. We got to think about there are fines if you destroy property, or if they can fine you for different reasons. Then 9 times out of 10, when you go to court, they're going to give you probation. It can be a year, it can be more, it can be 5 years. And then so you got to go report to see somebody. You got to give them a urine sample, pay a monthly fine, and any other retribution that fines that you may have to pay. Because just say if you didn't stole a car and you ran to somebody's yard and broke down their fence, you're gonna have to pay that. You're gonna have to pay for that through your probation. That's your retribution. You got to pay that back. You go to prison, depending on how long it is, it be a year, 15 years, 20 years. Sometimes people get life sentences and never get out. So you got to factor about, and if you go to prison, it's different phases of that. Because guess what? When you go to prison, you have to parole out or you max out on your sentence. So if you paroling out, you might parole out and got 5 years parole and probation, meaning that first 18 months or first year, you might have to do parole, and then it transfers into probation, which is still you talking about fines, urine tests, people popping up to your house, people are popping, your PO popping up to your job, coming to the house. Um, it's just so much that comes with that, man, and it can be a headache, right? The types of crimes, right? We got armed robbery, murder, kidnapping, aggravated assault, burglary, trafficking, drug trafficking, forgery, theft by receiving stolen property. All these charges I just read out to you are considered felonies, which goes back to what I said originally earlier in the video. So I just wanted to kind of share some things with y'all. When you get a misdemeanor or felony conviction, it can hurt your future. It can impact your job, your career opportunities, working for the IRS, being a doctor. So just if you got a felony and you got a doctor's degree, you say you went to school to be a doctor and you got your doctor's degree, the state ain't gonna give you a license to practice medicine or be a doctor. So you just wasted your time doing something. When you get a felony conviction, it can affect your housing, trying to get apartments, rental homes, or whatever. Um, they're gonna do a background check. And if you got a felony, that could be a reason for them to justify not to give you the house that you're trying to get or the housing you're trying to get. Post-secondary education, a lot of times they're going to ask you on your application if you have a felony, and it can be they can use that as a reason not to give you entry into a university or college. And then it can even impact your small business and bank loans. So it's just so many ways you can be impacted by uh, these types of things, man. So I just want to share that with y'all. I think it's important for us to think about that collectively as a community. Like, what are we going to do next, man? So it starts with a conversation. And if you really want to be impactful and make a difference, be a volunteer mentor for these grassroots organizations, these nonprofits that are really out here doing the work, trying to help make a difference in the community. Volunteer, give your time. Just imagine if every adult mentored a child outside of their own children. What type of world would we have? If every adult mentored one child, meaning poured into them, not doing that, not necessarily doing something financially, just spending time with them, just helping them navigate life, helping them make better decision choices. What kind of world do you really think we would have if people cared and really tried to? You see these young people out here going down a road, wrong path. You don't correct them. You don't say nothing to them. Even with your own children, some of you know what your children are doing, and you're not doing anything to stop them. And then guess what? When they mess around and mess up real bad, there's nothing you can do to save them. If they were killed, you want to tell the public they was a good child, but then you knew they were doing certain things they weren't supposed to do, right? You promoted, you advocated, you stood by and watched them do it. And then even for those of you who have children that have been victimized, you know, we gotta have those conversations with them. And then we gotta put them into programs and things that can help them get a better understanding of what life is, what comes with life, and making good decisions and choices, right? So that's all I got. I just want to have a brief conversation with y'all. I don't want to drag it out too long, but this is the first of many videos I'll be doing, man, just to have conversations in general, talking about my experiences, me doing the work, because I've been doing this work for almost 20 years, working with young people, young adults, and adults that are considered high risk and at risk through working through multiple organizations over the past years, man. And so I just want to see things different. I want to see a change, what's going on in our country. So um, I hope and pray, man, that I drop some jewels on somebody. I want y'all to subscribe to my channel. Like I said, I'll be putting out more content every week, at least 1 or 2 videos a week to just continue to um, try to impact people's lives at the same time, um, make a difference in what's going on in our communities. So I love y'all. Y'all have a great day. And with that being said, I'm going to say peace.